Every woman deserves to feel vibrant, safe, loved, and feel her power. The Woman's Vibrancy Code podcast is here for a potent use of your time. We will cover energy, hormones, and libido with episodes that also dive into entrepreneurship, money mindset, feminine power, and much, much more. Introducing Maraya Brown, Yale and functional medicine trained women's health expert, midwife, mom, and entrepreneur.
Let's get this show on the road, because today we're talking about allowing the wisdom of your intuition to uplevel your vibrancy. And I have the amazing Heather Alice Shea with me today. She is a friend. She is a sister from another mister. She comes to us from Florida, and really, truly, Heather, I know the two of them. We're going to find some way to co-collaborate, co-create, and work together. I have so much love and trust and respect for this woman. She's definitely someone you want to be listening to, you want to be following. So let me tell you a little bit about her. Former psychotherapist turned master coach, Heather Alice Shea is the CEO and founder of Atmana Academy, the world's first life coach training school, specifically for intuitive life coaches. Her passion is teaching aspiring healers and coaches how to master superior coaching skills and cultivate their intuition for a bolder business and a bigger bottom line. I'll take a little booty too. Using her research-supported methodologies that yield faster results, she's helped hundreds of clients across 5 continents launch practices that generate the freedom and flexibility that they desire and deserve. Her work has been featured in top publications like Spirituality and Health Magazine, Brains Magazine, Body, Mind, Green, Elephant Journal, and Best Self Magazine. Heather holds a Master of Science degree in clinical mental health counseling and a Bachelor of Science in psychology. When not working, she loves running on the beach and advocating for mental health and human rights via her charitable organization, Free Humanity Foundation. Her website is in the description. We'll also get all of her social media links. One thing for you to just take note of, when I read her bio, it's like, how cool. We're talking intuition, which can often be like, woo-woo. And she brings science. She brings foundational education and grounding to the table. So put your seatbelt on, grab your pen and paper, and let's go.
I love it. Thank you, Maraya, for that beautiful introduction. And truly, I think one of the greatest gifts that 2020 has given me is you and our friendship. So I adore you to pieces. And there's no doubt in my mind that 2023 is the year of I feel like it's Wonder Twins unite, right? Like, I think a lightning bolt might strike the minute that happens. So it's
watch out now. 2022 energy. I have the visual of a snowball. Yeah. Although you live in Florida, you're in snow.
That works for me. It helps cool me off. I love it.
Okay, Heather, what is intuition?
Oh man, what a great question. So I love this question because I feel like intuition is really the concept of intuition is really bubbling up in the consciousness of your everyday person, which I don't know about you, but that makes me feel really good. Because one thing that we have witnessed in the last 2 to 3 years is the crumbling of a lot of societal structures, ways of being, ways of believing, institutions and ideas and concepts that we thought we could depend on to support our health and our well-being and our vibrancy are falling apart. It's kind of like the Wizard of Oz, right? Do not look behind the curtain. We're finding out that there's just like an old guy pulling levers behind the curtain. We're finding out that a lot of the things that we believed aren't what we thought they were, right? So I actually think this is an amazing thing. I think it's great because what it's doing is it's requiring us to go within and to start asking ourselves what we think and how we feel first. So that's one of the reasons why I think intuition is really bubbling to the surface. It's people are just given the opportunity now to ask themselves, what do I know to be true? And so what I would say intuition really is having the ability to ask yourself and accurately know, truly from a place of aligning to your core sense of self, what is true for me? What do I truly believe in? What do I stand for? It's being able to live in alignment with that. So if we look at what the word intuition, I'll give you kind of a technical definition. If you take the word intuition and you break it down into its root word components, the actual, and I think this is what the ancients meant when they said intuition, the word actually means technically to be a person who contemplates or considers the wisdom of their inner watcher or guard. To contemplate or to consider. So inturai means to contemplate and consider. The prefix in means on, in, or upon. Intuit means to learn or to instruct. This is where we get our modern word tuition from. When you go to college and you learn from an instructor or a teacher, what are you paying? Your tuition, right? So we can see it there in our modern world. It's to learn from a wise teacher. And then turai means inner guard. It means watcher or guard. So when I say I'm an intuitive, when you say you're intuitive, when we say we're going to live an intuitive lifestyle, what we're saying is I am a person who contemplates and considers and deeply consults with my inner watcher. And I allow myself to lead from this deep wellspring. I understand and I recognize that there's an intelligence within me. It's like an inner sentinel that's there to protect me, to lead and guide my life, and also serve the highest good of everyone. And so intuition is a person who's willing to let that source of inner wisdom lead and guide their life.
I need to ask for the individuals that are listening and they go, okay, but how do I hear? How do I see? How do I know if it's my inner guards? I'm reading Seed of the Soul right now. Yeah. And I had the esteemed privilege this last weekend of spending a day with Gary Zukov. Girl, we're going to talk about this.
Okay.
And the 5 sensory versus multisensory. So I'm curious in the concept of intuition and when a person is going, well, is this my inner critic? Is this my intuition? Is this my fear? Is this like, how do you help support someone in deciphering between either listening into their 5 senses, maybe their intuition, they hear, they see, they smell, or maybe it's something outside of those 5 senses in the multisensory space. How does someone decipher when it is their inner, the inner watcher or guard?
Yeah, sure.
That they're
Which
feeling.
Speaks to us in that multidimensional way.
Yeah.
It speaks to us in 1,000 different ways. So it's a beautiful question. I notice as you ask it, I notice myself, like it really softens me because we have to have so much compassion for ourselves. We live in a very complex world where finite beings, exposed to so much. So first thing I think is just to have compassion for ourselves, to be a person that would even endeavor to listen to their own inner truth is a brave, bold, defiant act, right? It's just, you're a rebel to even do something like that.
So, you mean it's not Google University or Facebook or TikTok or LinkedIn or like all the emails that are coming in and all the text messages. It's not coming from that.
Right. And it's like, and it's so easy to be like, oh yeah, that's what I should do. It's like, just to even think about, no. What do I think? What do I believe? What is in here? What is wanting to come through me? What is within me? And being able to say, I don't know about the rest of it. Maybe it is my mind chatter. Maybe it is my ego. Maybe it is, my fear. Maybe it is my self-doubt. Maybe it is my childhood programming. Maybe it is genetic, ancestral, whatever, right? We actually know through science that's real, by the way. When we talk about breaking genetic bonds, that's actually real. We do have them. The science now shows that. So maybe it is all those things. And we can tease that out and I'll offer an idea on how a real quick way to think about doing that. But I just want to say, to be a person who will just bottom line it and go, I'll get to that in a minute. But what I do know is that I'm going to ask myself, I would rather make the gravest of mistakes than to surrender my own conscience. My dad used to say, honey, even when I'm wrong, I'm right. And I was like, no, Dad, I think when you're wrong, you're just wrong. And you have a problem admitting that. And I never understood what he meant until I started leading with my heart. And what my dad was trying to say to me in that moment is, honey, I'm somebody who is endeavoring to live life on my own terms, and the world misunderstands me for it. And I'm wrong in their eyes, but I'm not actually. I'm right, because I would rather live as a true person making mistakes than to live as in a false self checking boxes so other people that I might not even admire, respect, or even like approve of me.
Mm-hmm.
So that is courageous and bold. And it's like the most beautiful feminine energy ever. Like we're doing what we want to do. That's the divine female going, the divine feminine being like, actually, I'm the queen here. But how we can begin to tease this out. So the best way that I can describe what it's like when you do make a connection with this intuitive self inside of you, it's like a conversation with someone. It's about it. It feels like this. You have this moment where you go, oh my God, it's always been you this whole time. When I was 5 and I was in kindergarten and I got up and I ran, it was you telling me to get up and run. When I was in grade school and you will realize that this watcher has been there your whole life, and you will recognize their voice and the things that you feel, see, pick up in that multidimensional place, right? Your clairvoyance, your clairaudience, your clairsentience, your claircognizance, your clairalience, your clairgustance, your somatic sensations, your empathic abilities, all of it. These are different experiences, but it will feel as familiar to you as when you pick up the phone and hear your mother's voice. That's what it's like. When your mom calls you, does she go, hi, it's your mother? I mean, maybe she does, but you would know her voice anywhere, right? It's your mom, right? Or it's your dad, or it's your best friend. You know their voice. So the answer to that question is to develop the ability to just know the quality of the voice. So it's what we usually do when we're trying to pick up on our intuitive hits is we focus on the information, not the messenger. We're trying to get the message. We're trying to get the intuitive hit. What I say is that's going to come. What we want to do is focus on who is sending the message. Is this my ego? Is this my mind chatter? What part of myself am I paying attention to here? And you learn what these parts of self feel like. Mm-hmm. And so it becomes really easy. I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to get the monkey mind to go away. I'm going to get the ego, the shadow, all of this to quiet down. Actually, what I say is turn up the volume. I want that part. I want those parts of me talking to me all day because
You got to turn up the volume, turn up the volume.
Yeah. Pump up the volume. Dance. Remember that from the 90s? Pump up the volume. Yeah, I say turn up the volume on all of it. It's like an orchestra. It's like a symphony when you learn how to play. It's like, I want all of it here, but I know that I'm going to listen to the intuitive messenger, and I know what the quality of that experience is like. And you get to know that voice. And so then it then becomes a matter of, where is my power? Where am I? What part of self am I giving my power to? Am I giving it to my fear? Am I giving it to my whatever it is over here? Or am I staying aligned with the truth of who I am? And am I listening to and focusing on through my conscious will? By the way, we can choose not to do that. We listen. I hear you. They're parts of self. We don't want them to go away, but we're letting this part lead. Yeah. And what's really cool is those parts of self actually are very wise and have useful information. We just don't want them driving the car that is our lives. So I would say you learn the ability to just know that voice like you would know your mother calling you or your father calling you.
It's also reminding me, this is me sharing information that I don't always share publicly, but when I was like 5 or 6, I started hearing voices.
Yeah.
And they scared me at first. I remember covering my ears. I remember running. It sounded like yelling, and I would cry to my mom and I would say, it's the voices again. And what I realized is I've had 3 guides. They've been with me for a very long time.
There you go.
And they were all trying to talk at the same time. And I think sometimes they were speaking in non-English words. And for me, it was really scary.
Yep.
And then I had someone help me decipher and help communicate with them in a different way. And I know that they're always there. Sometimes I can call them in, and sometimes they show up and share messages when I'm just because it's time. And often when I'm doing too much, they're like, sit your butt down.
Yep.
But there's a certain feeling in my body that I always get right before they're going to share a message. And I'm realizing as I'm listening, there can be a deciphering between here's me checking in with my intuition.
Mm-hmm.
But then also here's a moment where I'm receiving guidance, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
It's not from inside me, but it is from something that is part of me and part of my reality at all times.
Yes. I mean, so I don't want to get too nerdy on the science of it, but what we would say is your experience, it's a part of your own energetic system, and we experience it in relationship to. So the human, like, we experience it as it being, it's a guide, it's this or that. And I happen to believe that it is that there are there is, I think it is the greatest act of hubris and arrogance for human beings to assume that we're literally the only sentient, intelligent creatures in the known universe. Like, I can't think of anything more arrogant. But so I happen to believe that there are, higher intelligent beings. All of our ancient traditions talk about them. I happen to believe that they are there. But even if we are someone who feels a little uncomfortable with that, what I would say is just consider your intuition or the messenger, this voice you're hearing or whatever. Consider it just a part of your own energetic system that you're having a relationship with. It feels like this it feels like a back and forth, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we can also ask ourselves, how do I feel? Like, we can check in with ourselves too. What I have experienced in teaching people how to develop their intuition and in doing this is it's really the same place within ourselves. Sherlock Holmes, Benedict Cumberbatch, I think he did a British series as Sherlock Holmes, and he's like, I'm going to my mind palace. Like, it's all just your mind palace, right? Like I would say your heart palace, right? So it's all the same place, like the place inside of yourself that you're going, or inside of your body, however it is you get there, by the way, it's different for everybody. That's the same place that your guides are meeting you. It's like they're coming into that place and you go to that place for that wisdom. So, it really looks different for everybody, but I love that you have that knowing of, like, it feels like this in my body. So you understand and know exactly how it feels for you. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So then when we're talking about health in the context of the Women's Vibrancy Code, how does leading an intuitively inspired life create wellness in a multidimensional way? So can we bring this conversation of intuition into how it applies to our vibrancy, our wellness, our overall well-being?
Mm-hmm. So I'm from the South, and if there's one thing a good Southern woman loves, it's a BOGO. I don't know about you.
I don't know what that is.
A BOGO?
No.
Oh, girl, you don't shop at Rack Room Shoes. A BOGO is buy one, get one free, girl. I want like a twofer. Okay. It's buy one, get one free. So I want more bang for my buck, for my time, my energy, my money. I want more bang. Right. So the short answer to that is we do a twofer. I think what intuition buys us is that BOGO or the twofer, right? We, as we focus on listening to our intuition, it brings into conscious resonance into coherence other parts of our life. So I'm going to explain the science behind intuition really quick so we can understand how it increases our vibrancy across multidimensional levels of ourself, all by just focusing on your intuition. So the primary driver, science now shows us that if you were to say, like, Heather, what's the engine, or like maybe the gas in the engine of intuition? What is that? Well, we know now from the literature that is our emotional self. The engine of our intuition is emotion. So our intuition actually comes to us. It's another way to think about intuition would be to call it energetic communication between selves, between sentient creatures, right? Everything that's alive in our world has an electromagnetic field. Okay. So this electromagnetic field, it starts in the heart, is where our intuitive information comes in. But the quality of this electromagnetic field is determined by our emotional well-being. So emotions like gratitude, love, forgiveness, compassion, happiness, joy, peace, that makes our literal electromagnetic field go coherent. We've all seen those beautiful sine waves, right?
Yeah.
And here's what's wild.
I think of Emoto's work, like with water.
Exactly. So as we focus on intuitive development, how we do that is through making we focus on our emotions and it becomes coherent. But what we get out of that is so much more than just intuitive connection. We know that as our emotional self becomes coherent, think of it like a symphony. So you've got your drums, girl, I don't even know what those, you've got, is that what they call them? Drums in a symphony? I don't even know. Okay. drums, the cellos, the wind instruments, you've got all the flutes, you've got all these things around. So you can think of coherence in your emotional self as all of the flutes playing coherently. They're all hitting the same note. Mm-hmm. But when we develop our intuition, it brings the rest of our other bodily systems into coherence. So now the cellos, they're playing their own notes, but they're playing them in harmony and in symphony with the flute, with the drum. So what you get, what intuition buys you, is coherence within the singular dimension of self, but also between the systems. It is quite literally learning how to play yourself like an instrument. And what we know this does is increases your physical well-being. It increases DHEA. It reduces cortisol. It helps. I mean, this, Maraya, your hormones, all of this is tied in. So I love being an intuitive and I love this lifestyle. I love this way of being and I love identifying this way because I feel like it's BOGO and I can't get enough of that. I just want to do like the least amount of work to get the biggest result.
Right. It's so fascinating because it makes me think what resonates with me and what I've said out loud and what I've been taught is think the thing like in the world of manifestation. Mm-hmm. I want to see myself as the future version of who it is that I'm becoming. So I'm going to see it. I'm going to think it to be true now. I'm going to allow myself to feel it to be true now in my body. And then that feeling propels an action. And then the action becomes a step over time that becomes a new lifestyle. And so I'm curious if you are in agreement of that order.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the order doesn't matter as long as the components are there. And actually, I would say the order is however it works best for you. Mm-hmm. I put the emotion first, then the thought goes, and then the action. But there's a scripture in the Christian tradition, not that I'm preferring that tradition, but there's a scripture in the Christian tradition that says, you will, when the eye is single to the glory of God, you will say to the mountain, move, and it will move. But what is the eye? It's not this thing. It's yourself, your thoughts, your beliefs,
the I,
your emotions.
EYE.
Yeah. It's so when we are singular, which is what you just described.
Yeah.
So when all of those things are in harmony and we are all parts of self are moving in alignment, in coherence, in resonance, that is when we manifest.
And what I'm also hearing is as we're deciphering, is this my fear? Is this my intuition? Is this my ego? Is this my personality? What's the feeling that's associated with it? So we allow the feelings to also lead what part of ourselves we're listening to. Is that fair to say?
I would say 100%. And it's also getting to know the type of feelings. Like one, you'll start to see your emotional patterns, which is terrifying. Like you will. You
mean I have to feel?
Yeah, you're like, oh my God. So yeah, I think look at the quality of the emotion attached, and also why. Here's a great question: why do you think you have to do that thing? Do it this way or that way? And if it's because you're trying to mitigate risk, that's fear and that's ego. If it's because you're aspiring to become, like at the end of the day, it takes very little honest self-reflection to get down to whether or not this is a fear-based decision or a love-based decision. In the Hebrew tradition, they have two words for fear. Because a big question I get asked is like, well, how do I know that it's not my intuition warning me? Doesn't that feel scary, right? So there's actually two types of ways that you can tell the difference between fear. Is it a fear that that is proper fear or something you should lean into? So in the Hebrew tradition, they have two words for it. The first is yira and the second is pachad. Pachad is the ego-based fear, right? It's the small self. It's me making a small decision because I'm scared. It's me not making that investment because I don't think I have the money or have the time or have the energy, whatever. I've got every excuse in the book. Or is it Yira? And what I would say is this, if you're going to live an intuitively led life, you are going to be asked to do things that push you outside of your comfort zone. And that can be very scary. So Yira fear. And what I would say is you need to say yes to that all day long. So learning how to tell the difference between what is the energy of, oh shit, I'm about to step into my destiny and I'm terrified versus, and you should absolutely go do that. Or what is this thing over here that's just keeping me small? That's the pachad energy. So Yira energy is we felt it our whole lives. It's the feeling you feel before you close on your first house. It's the feeling you feel before you get married. It's the feeling you feel before you send your kid off to college. I just launched my one and only baby, right? I was terrified, right? So I think, is fear always going to be there? Yes, but there are good types of fear. It's when we're in the presence of the divine, when we're stepping into more resources and abundance than we ever thought possible, when we're challenging ourselves to do things we never thought, when we are living a life outside and beyond our wildest dreams. If you would have told me when I started my coaching practice in 2014 that I would be running Atmana Academy, I would have smacked you and said, get off the crack, put the crack down, because you've got to be on crack. Because that's crazy, right? You will live a life beyond your wildest dreams, and it requires courage, but it will take you there. And what I have found is it's in those moments of expansion. Is this expanding me? And if it's expanding you, if it's taking you higher, if it's asking you to become more than you ever thought you could be, that is your intuition.
Oh my gosh, I love this so much. And I love how I'm watching you bring it all together. The intuition, the feelings, even bring it into DHEA and cortisol production. You know, you're speaking my language, because y'all, you don't know what that is. That's taking you into rest and digest. It's helping you create more stamina, more passion, more energy, more wellness. It's decreasing inflammation in your body. It's helping your body think clearly. It's helping your immune system. It's helping you produce those hormones that you're wanting so much, simply by going inside and listening to your inner watcher and guard.
Yep.
Going towards the feelings of gratitude, love, compassion, peace, and being willing. I think the quote by Tony Robbins is the extent to which, what is it? Something like the joy that we experience in our lives is in direct proportion to the extent to which we're allowing ourselves to feel uncomfortable.
Ooh, wow.
But the discomfort is in the space of listening in, and it's checking in when we feel the excitement of getting married. Like, I think about when I quit my corporate job and took off on the around the world trip, me like 24 with my little backpack, and I got on the airplane with my seatbelt on, and the plane started taking off, and I was going to be gone for a year on the best, one of the most extraordinary years of my life. A solo around the world trip. Now, you betcha, the moment that plane started taking off, there was that like, wait, I think I changed my mind. I need to get off the plane.
Right?
What am I doing? But that was a good feeling. Oh, this is so good. This is so good.
And our ego self is like, no. But our soul will say in that moment, it's okay. Take the next step. It's all right. Yeah. Take the next step. Right.
Right.
So it's the ability to say yes to this, despite this.
Especially when we're wanting to be the trailblazers, the game changers, the women, the people on the planet that are rising the tide, knowing that all boats get the lift.
That's right. And I think one of the things that we miss and we forget, and that we need to remind ourselves of daily, is that feelings are a choice. Now, a lot of people get really mad when I say that. They're like, okay, shots fired, Heather. Like, no, they're not. Now, we can't choose how we our initial emotional reactions to things. That's true. That's embedded. Okay, we're going to have reactions, but we can choose the feeling we have the moment after. And that I truly believe that the moment we step back into our ability to claim our right to feel, I mean, this is you, Maraya, all day long, to feel vibrant, to feel the way you want to feel, and to realize that you can choose that first. It's not something that happens to you. Oh, my husband did something nice for me. Now I feel happy. Oh, my kid did what I needed them to do today. They didn't throw their shoes in the floor. So now I'm relieved and happy. No, you can choose to feel that way. You might not be able to choose a reaction if you're activated or triggered, but you can choose, once you are aware that you are in that state, do I want to keep feeling this that way? And emotions are powerful. They're 5,000 times on an electromagnetic from an electromagnetic perspective. Your emotional energy is 5,000 times more powerful than your thoughts.
Wow.
Your thoughts are nothing compared to your emotions. Okay. So we can think things all day long, but if we don't feel them, we don't feel them, it doesn't matter. So we can choose our emotions. We can choose gratitude. That's a conscious choice. We can say, no matter what is happening today, I choose peace. I always say to myself when I'm triggered, I'm ready to throat punch someone. Happens a lot. Kind of like just ready to go. I'm a fiery personality. So, when I feel that, I put my hand on my heart and I say, I am not this emotion. I am she who feels this emotion. It will pass and I will remain. It will pass and I will remain.
Isn't it Maya Angelou that says it's not what we say that people will remember, it's how we make them feel? I don't know about you, but one of my mantras that I remind myself daily is life is not happening to me. It's happening for me and by me. And I am steering the boat and I get to be in a very conscious place of how am I choosing to see the scenario and create. And I'm hearing loud and clear that a lot of it comes back to my emotional state. Okay, I want to make sure that there's time and space for you to talk a little bit about what it is that you do and for women that are listening and how they reach out and why they would reach out to you. And I just want to ask one more question before we get there to get into some nitty gritties. So quick steps for someone who is wanting to have to personally develop and hone in on their intuition.
Yeah, let's do it. I've got 6 steps.
Okay.
So, it's kind of like, you teach people how to harness their intuition. They're like, how do you do that? It's like catching the wind, right? You'd think, how would you ever put a process around that? Well, we actually can. I always say this, like, it's not the 1700s anymore. We're not going to get burned at the stake for using these abilities. How great is that, right? I posted on my Instagram a couple of days ago. If you're not somebody the church would have burned 400 years ago, are you even living? But so we actually can really, now that we understand the psychophysiological processes behind how intuition works, we are now able, in a more powerful way to put it into a step-by-step framework. So we'll never kill the art. It's always going to be, an artistic form and expression. But we have moved closer into understanding. So in Atmana, we teach a 6-step framework. I'm going to go through these steps really, really quick. The first one is inner awareness. Okay. So we have to develop the ability to pay attention to our esoteric world, to the world within. And we have to learn how to do this by also, we're a person living our lives. If we're going to live an intuitive lifestyle, I want to be able to intuit and be in touch with my inner watcher, my intuitive self, while I'm buying toilet paper at Target. Okay. So this requires me to be able to pay attention to my exoteric world, right, to the outer world, while simultaneously paying attention to my inner world. In other words, just being with myself, being present with myself, and paying attention to what I see, hear, feel, taste, touch, sense, and my body and my feelings, right? Within myself, deeply being with yourself. So that's inner awareness. It's developing the ability to move through the world deeply connected to yourself and paying attention to the information there. If I want to make a sandwich, think of it like this. If I want to make a sandwich, which room of my house do I have to go to? It's not the bathroom. Okay. It's the kitchen. Okay. And so it's gross. Like your food cannot touch bathroom air. Ew. So, you go to the kitchen, you go where the thing is, right? If you want food, you go to the kitchen. So it's the same with intuitive information. If you want the intuitive information, you got to go to where it is, which is within you. Okay. So that's why we start with inner awareness. The second one then is noticing. We then notice impartially without judgment what is there. We just observe, kind of like mindfulness, right? Cloud, car, yellow, Yeti, kitty cat with a cactus coming out of it, pumpkin spice can. I'm literally naming things on my desk. Okay. So, you're just paying attention to what is there without judgment, not worried about being right or wrong. So you just notice what is there. The third step is to learn to trust these impressions. So we have a lot of programming around allowing ourselves to believe that the information we gather from within ourselves is valid and real. So trusting is really about learning how to see that information as useful and valid as logical left brain sources of information. Okay. So it's not about not letting left brain, logical parts of self be there. It's about marrying these parts and learning to see your intuition as a valid form of gathering information, a valid form of wisdom as well. Okay. So intuition, and I just want to say this really quick, what helps us understand to how to trust our intuition is intuition isn't illogical. A lot of people think it doesn't make any sense. Yes, it does. It makes perfect sense. It's coming from a place that's beyond the intelligence of your conscious mind. Just because I don't understand how my cell phone works, that doesn't mean it's nonsense. It means it's sense that I don't understand. So it's not illogical to listen to your intuition. It's non-logical. There is a difference. So think of intuition think of right brain, left brain processes like this. Your right brain is a Mac. Your left brain is Windows. They do the same thing. They gather information to help you. Both of these parts of self are important. I just believe we need to elevate. Albert Einstein said, the intuitive mind is a sacred gift and the rational mind is a faithful servant. And we have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. I just think we need to center our intuitive intelligence, bring our left brain online, integrate, and then off we go. Okay. Which brings me to my fourth. So the fourth thing we do is we trust, and then we have to interpret what we're getting. Have you ever been talking to someone and you're like, I just keep seeing like you on a beach in Hawaii. What does this mean? Oh my God, I just got back from Hawaii. Are you kidding me? Right? Or have you ever met someone and you just get this impression like, oh my God, this happens to me all the time. If you're a somatic intuitive, you'll know when a person is sick. You'll just know something is off, right? So it's to learn to interpret. So it's energetic information, but you have to learn what it means, right? It's like a download. It's multidimensional. It doesn't talk to you in English. Maybe clairaudience will sometimes. So we have to learn to interpret what our intuitive impressions mean because they're packed with information and they're multidimensional. I'll give you an example really quick. I had a woman one time, I was doing an intuitive session with her and I kept seeing a mold around her. I kept seeing her in my mind like that, like slow breathing. And I was like, God, you are ready to break out of the mold that is you. I was like, God, you just feel so controlled. I just feel like you were ready to break out of this mold. She looks at me and she's like, it was a group reading. She's like, no, I'm perfectly fine. I'm happy in my marriage. Her friend goes, that's not true. She has a mold outbreak in her house. And so her friend started like giving her what for. So that hadn't even occurred to me, the double entendre. She was in a mold she needed to break free and it had physically manifested in her house as a mold problem. So we have to learn to see all of the ways we can interpret the information. From there, we integrate. We bring in our left brain. We create useful. So that's the part everybody forgets. You're not supposed to not use your logical mind. Okay. You're supposed to do it after you get the intuitive impression. So then we integrate information. We ask ourselves really practical questions like, is this executable right now? What would it look like for me to do this? What would be the steps that I would need to take? Is this even feasible? What parts of this can I do now? What can I do later? Who would I need to help me accomplish this initiative? Et cetera, right? Mm-hmm. And then the last one, sixth step is acting. Get your butt in gear and go. Mm-hmm. Get your butt in gear and go. You got your plan. It's time to act on it. So then we move in the world based off of what we have seen, what we have witnessed within ourselves, what we've noticed. We're trusting, we're interpreting, we are integrating all parts of self, and then we're taking action. That's the 6 steps to intuitive development.
Yum.
Yeah.
As I was listening, there were so many thought forms, but I'm not going to go back through them because that just feels really complete and perfect, just as it was. Mm-hmm. And I imagine lots of people are taking notes, and that's something to revisit and allow space to rest, digest, and assimilate. Mm-hmm. And my guess is, if you're listening to this, allow yourself to sleep on it and then come back tomorrow and revisit those notes. What does that mean for me in my inner awareness? What does that mean for me to notice? What does that mean for me to trust that it's valid and real and useful? What does that mean for me to interpret and be open to interpreting in different ways and forms? And what does that mean for me to integrate it and then act? So good. I have so many questions, but I'm also aware of time. Will you tell us a little bit more about Atmana specifically, about what it is that you do, about what Atmana does, who comes into your ecosystem? Why do they come into your ecosystem? How do you and your team serve them?
Yeah. So Thank you for giving me the opportunity to do it too, by the way. It's my, like, Atmana is like my second child. It's so weird. Like it's my passion project and my business and my baby all rolled into one. So, Atmana is and I know people say this all the time, but I am literally waiting for somebody to send me a link. I don't know. I'll stop saying this when I get a link of someone going, actually, you're not. But, we are quite literally the world's first life coach training institution that formally integrates intuition into the coaching process as a validated coaching skill. So what Atmana is it's a school. We train and support and teach life coaches how to use their intuition married with traditional life coaching skills. So it's both. We do a dual certification in traditional life coaching and also adding in our intuition. So unlike a lot of, like I think business owners or people in the spiritual space that talk about intuition and have certification programs, I started my coaching practice doing intuitive work. Like I literally built a 7-figure training academy doing one intuitive session after another. Like that was the bricks that built the house of Atmana. I mentioned that to say this. If you're a person, so who do we support and who do we train? I really think it's a person with a certain belief set and core value. I couldn't tell you what the average Atmana coach has for breakfast or where they live or what they look like. We have had every single person from every literal demographic come through our doors, and I am so proud of that. You can't peg us, right? But what we all have in common is a couple of things. One, we feel deeply called to serve other people. We feel deeply called. We know that you approach a coaching practice, and whether you're aspiring or seasoned, we work with coaches who've been coaching for 30 years. We work with people who are brand spanking new. It doesn't matter. You all can come and get the training that puts you on the map as the purpose first, profit next. We teach a purpose first, people first, profit next model as we walk in our purpose and we serve the people we're called to serve. We know that the profit takes care of itself, right? Mm. It's a person who deeply feels like helping others is a life calling. Mm. That's the most important thing. You know it is a calling, and you know that your way of expressing that calling is to step into the expression of your own authenticity. In other words, you want to coach in the way you were born to do it. You want to help others in the way that in your unique way. So at Atmana, we got a ton of frameworks. I can throw a framework at you all day. But what I know our coaches really want is to do it your way, to do it the way your soul is calling you to do it. So I think that's what really makes us different. Like Enneagram, human design, tapping, all of these things are great, but that's not what your soul came here to create. Maybe it's a tool you use. I'm here. My zone of genius is pulling out of you the thing that you're here to give the world, right? So that's what sets us apart. We know it's a calling, and we know that there's something inside of us that needs to come forward to step into that calling. And so that's what I wake up every single day and I train intuitive life coaches to do that. Our skill set is in accordance, our traditional skills with the ICF. We're going to be submitting for accreditation by the end of the year. It's crazy. Yay. So we're the first life coach institution in the world that's research supported that will be like ICF accredited. I can't believe that we're going to get, it just blows my mind when I think about that. Like, this is the world we live in. It is here. We're not waiting for someone to create it. We're creating it. We are doing it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
And you're creating that framework and landing spot for people to get started, get the certification as well as the skill set. And I love something that's really been true for me this week that I was reminded of in many different ways is culture over skill set and heart over money.
Yes.
It's just like, it is like when I think about my core belief system and what drives me, I'm hearing kind of similar things for individuals that want to serve, that want to create not just skills, but passion and culture. And yes, they want to generate income, but it's around heart first, so that in the generation of income, it's in service. So that then when we are doing what we love and we're generating income, that income also turns into service.
That's right.
Not just make the money so we can give it to great places. Serve as we're generating. Yum. Okay. We've talked about a lot of things. The other thing that feels important is leading with the heart. Mm-hmm. And I definitely have heard you talk about intuition really being in that energetic, like vibrational space that starts in the heart space.
Yes.
Can you just touch a little bit on that, and then I'll ask if there's any last things that you want to say, and we'll close this up for today.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing to reflect on. I guess what immediately comes up to me, it's almost like I hear my own soul say, if we're not doing that, if we're not in our heart, if we're not leading from the heart, if we're not connected to ourselves, if we're not willing to be vulnerable enough to connect to other people, what are we doing here?
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing here? That is really the essence, in my opinion, of what it is to be human. We want to be touched. We want to feel. We want to see and be seen. We want to witness and we want to be witnessed. We want to give love and we want to receive love. That, at the end of the day, life is so simple.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is what we're all after. You know what? Well, I love living from the heart because it makes you realize we're all just a bunch of kids. I'm just a big kid in a 45-year-old woman's body. Like, we're all just a bunch of children, like truly children of, universe, God, source, spirit. We really are. And we just want to be loved and we just want to be connected. And so dropping into the heart, living from that place, starting there, to me, it's just, if we're not doing that, what are we doing? We're really lost without it. So we're rational, mature adults. Of course, we go live our lives and we do our things. But this remains. This will pass and I will remain. And this is the only thing we take with us. I looked at my father a week to the day before he died. He came to my house. I was helping him finalize his will. And he looked me in the face and said to me, my nickname was Hessie. He looked at me and he said, Hessie, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Get ready. And he died a week later. And he sat at my house and I watched that man run through every decision he ever made and everything he did and didn't do. And I realized at the tender age of 29, you do not have a lot of time and you will reckon with yourself over how you lived. And I, for one, am not going to fade into the black, not having loved from this place, because that is the whole point we were here, of why we're here. Nobody ever goes to that place and says, damn it, I didn't spend enough hours at the office. I didn't make more money. You know what? Damn it, I didn't make more money. No one is going to ask you that. No one is going to care, right? So that, to me, is the heart. It's the whole reason we're here.
Yes. And I think the other piece to add is it's not something that's earned. It's required. It makes me feel emotional to say out loud, but I feel like a lot of women or people on the planet, somehow we will block it or limit it because we somehow question our worthiness.
Yeah.
We somehow question, does someone want to receive our love? Am I open to allowing it to flow in freely?
Well, that's the only way it can come in. That's the only way it can come in, because you can't get it any other way. Any other way, if it's earned, it isn't that. It comes by grace alone. Through grace alone.
Not from external validation, just simply because it's our birthright.
That's right. It's simultaneously the most vulnerable thing and the most empowering thing you will ever experience. It's the craziest thing in the world. So I agree. You're right. I love that. It truly is embracing grace.
Any last parting words for our listeners? And I'm just forever grateful for your time and for who you are on the planet and for who you are in my life and our friendship and our future together. Anything else you'd like to say?
Get out there and be you. That's it. Get out there and give the world who you are. Thank you so much, Maraya, for letting me be on and for sharing the light of Atmana and talking about my favorite thing in the whole world, which is intuition. And if you're listening and if you have any other questions, just reach out, check show notes, and find me on Instagram at Heather Alice Shea, and I will come running back to that DM to say hello.
Yes, she will. She actually really is good at that communication. All right.
Thank you for listening to the Woman's Vibrancy Code. Connect with us and take the first step to transforming your energy, hormones, and libido at thewomansvibrancycode.com. Cheers to your zest and vitality. Make sure to follow for weekly power-packed value.